The United States is ramping up a biological weapon infrastructure presence more and more in Africa. Now, according to the Russian defense official, Major General Richtchev, said this quote: "The documents at our disposal confirm that the U.S. biological warfare presence on the African continent is growing at a rapid pace. Research institutes of the U.S. Departments of Defense actively work in the region, and it's not only in one country, in one African country, but it's in various African countries, even regional wise." So this is now I'm going to go and share with you what the the Russian embassy in South Africa, the Russia embassy in South Africa, has shared on their Facebook page. Okay, let me just read it. Russia embassy in the Republic of South Africa on the U.S. military biological activities in Africa. The Pentagon uses the relevant infrastructure and potential African countries to control military biological research. The U.S. government customers are the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, the National Security Agency, and the U.S. State Department. The main consumers of the research results are the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases and the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. At the same time, the United States do not disclose the ultimate goals of the experiments to partners who are often unaware of the risks associated with the implementation of U.S. programs. Now, they have also published this article in full length. Let me see if you can see it. No, I'll just share that with you. It comes from a Russian based media. Yeah, so it goes the headline: briefing by Deputy Chief of the Nuclear, Chemical and Biological Protection Troops of the Russian Armed Forces, Major General Alexei Richtchev. So this was published on December 24, okay, just 3 days ago. The Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation continues to analyze the military and biological activities of the United States of America in Ukraine and elsewhere in the world. We drew your attention to the relocation of the unfinished Ukrainian projects on the territory of countries of the post-Soviet space and South Asia. Africa so that is relocated, okay? So Africa is now the zone of heightened interest. The U.S. administration sees the region as an unlimited natural reservoir of dangerous infectious agents and a test ground for experimental medications. After analyzing the required documents, we understood the structure of the system created by the U.S. administration to mitigate biological risks on the territory of other countries. This system has been successfully tested in Ukraine and Georgia, and now it actively works on the African continent. The efforts within the framework of this system are directed at acquiring pathogens in endemic areas and natural forces, controlling and managing the biological situation of their own benefit. One of the tasks is analyzing the epidemic situation along the borders of the geopolitical rivals in the presumed deployment areas of military contingents. Yeah. So it's a bit of a lengthy article. So now the person who says this documents, military officer or the general in Russia, says also, I would like to remind you that the deployment of the American system of biological controls goes according to a plan that was used before. Concerns are primarily raised about regular outbreaks of, for example, anthrax and tularemia in one region, and foot and mouth disease and plague in the another. As a rule, these concerns are pointed out during meetings of the US ambassadors with the representatives of the country's ministries of health. The American counterparts note that such outbreaks undermine the development of the region's economic potential. They question the training level of leadership and specialists when it comes to neutralizing biological threats, and state the need to improve their qualifications. Against this background, it's proposed to establish a center of disease diagnostic and testing of medical products within 1 or 2 years, which will study dangerous pathogens and mechanisms of their mutations and develop and test modern vaccines. It's also planned to involve local specialists in the research project of the DOD Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, at the same time. It's proposed that the US are to prepare a 3-month training program for the center's employees. The integration of regional information systems into the US electronic disease surveillance system is discussed. The representatives of the Defense Threat Reduction Agency often advise their partners to accelerate that process and pay particular attention to ensuring the nonstop work of the necessary equipment and network communications. 5 to 10 million US dollars are allocated to achieve these goals, with a possible increase in funding up to $20 million, taking into account the implementation of the first phase of the project. The US government authorities and private contracting companies, including the so-called big pharma enterprises, are involved to organize cooperation with the local relevant ministries. The result of this selective support is the transition to American personnel training standards, transfer and generalization of the information on the biological situation, degradation of national healthcare systems, imposition of suppliers of medical equipment and medications. At the same time, the participating countries involved in this system lose their national sovereignty in the sphere of biosecurity and become fully dependent from the United States. The documents at our disposal confirm that the US biological warfare presence on the African continent is growing at a rapid pace. Research of the US Department of Defense actively work in the region. For example, branches of National Naval Military Medical Center are stationed in Ghana and Djibouti, where active works is carried out in natural disease foci isolation and sequencing of pathogens. The US Army Military Medical Center in Kenya has deployed a network of field stations to monitor the spread of infectious disease in Equatorial Africa. In Nigeria, a joint medical research center and a military medical laboratory of the Armed Forces of the Republic have been established in 2024 with 10 US DOD specialists permanently on staff. Wow. Well, yeah, so let's continue. A new $35 million laboratory facility is being completed in Senegal. The project involves the same Pentagon contractors as in the former Soviet Union in Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine. Among them are CH2M, HILL, Black and Beyecha, and Metabiota. The Pentagon uses the relevant infrastructure and potential of African countries to conduct military biological research. The US government customers are the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the National Security Agency, and the US State Department. The main consumers of the research results are the US Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Disease and the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. At the same time, the United States does not disclose the ultimate goals of experiments to partners who are often unaware of the risks associated with the implementation of US programs. Washington has deliberately exploited the economic problems of African states' healthcare systems to organize research. For example, the United States has channeled some 40 million US dollars to support Guinea's health system. At the same time, the US administration initiated a project in the country to study Lassa fever, a severe infectious disease for which there are no means of prevention or treatment. A special attention to this country is due to the US desire to damage Russian-Guinea economic cooperation. American-funded biological projects in Nigeria are aimed at combating HIV/AIDS. As volunteers, Nigerian nationals are participating in a clinical evaluation of antiviral drugs from the Pentagon-affiliated company Gilead. I would like to remind you that this pharmaceutical company conducted trials of its drugs on Ukrainian citizens. This year, the Pentagon started active research of highly dangerous infectious agents in Zambia. At the same time, funding was directed at improving the capacity of military medical facilities and retraining medical personnel. The United States is working with South Africa to establish a collaborative study of the monkeypox virus at South African Institute for Vector-Borne Disease. Washington has donated 10,000 doses of vaccine for the disease produced by the Danish company Bavarian Nordic, which has not received final approval from WHO or World Health Organization and can be used only in high-risk individuals. The Pathogen Genomics Initiative is studying patterns of infection and resistance of pathogens to medical drugs. More than 20 biological sites in 18 African countries are involved. 18 African countries are involved in the project. More than 20 biological sites in 18 African countries are involved in the project. 18 African countries and 20 biological sites. Funding is provided through the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as contractors and philanthropic foundations that work closely with the Pentagon. It's noteworthy that bioinformatics specialists are involved in the research, whose duties include editing the genomes of identified microorganisms, which may lead to enhanced functions of pathogens. With the African Center for Disease Control's African Union Biosecurity and Biosafety Strategy scheduled for adoption in 2025. Oh my God. In 2025, the US has intensified consultations with countries in the region to ensure Washington-friendly provisions in the document. The Americans are particularly concerned about the work being carried out by Russia and China with the countries of the continent to expose true content of the US military biological programs in connection with the possible restriction of the Pentagon's activities in this area. While the stated goals are to monitor infectious disease and assist developing countries, in practice, we see a build-up of US biological military capabilities that circumvent BWC commitments. there is a clear trend. Pathogens that fall within the Pentagon's area of interest subsequently become pandemic, and American pharmaceutical companies become the beneficiaries. Yeah, this is really okay deep. I think I will just go to the conclusion. It's really a long article. It brings, it cites a lot of examples, but yeah, like Ebola and others. But in any case, so this was from the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, and it says it will continue to analyze the incoming information and will keep people informed. So, yeah, it's crazy. Again, it's that bio weapons warfare on the soil on African grounds. Anyway, fam, let us know in the comment section what do you think of this. If you're from Africa, then from Africa meaning living there, have you come across such a thing? I mean, so far we have 18 African countries. It says it doesn't list every country, but so far it has mentioned Kenya, Nigeria, Djibouti, Senegal, Zambia, South Africa, and there will be more. And the African Union is going to the CDC of African Union, Center for Disease Control of the African Union, will be collaborating also with the United States, and that means it's something that's going to be maybe implemented in the whole continent. I don't know what a damage, but yeah, we have to, we have to pay attention all those vaccines that are coming to our countries in Africa, because they just push them, and time and again there has been confirmations and incidents that children or people dying from those vaccinations. So yeah, pay attention, pay attention to the foods that you are eating, to the medicines that you are taking. I know in some it's sometimes it's not, when you don't have health, it's not even a luxury to check what kind of medicine you are taking or vaccination, but just pay attention. Yeah, it is just sad. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please let us know in the comment section what do you think of this. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like if you find it informative enough, share the video with others, support us through our PayPal account and our Buy Me a Coffee link. You can find it in the description section. That means a lot. Thank you for those of you who have supported. I want to give a quick shout out to those who supported us, Diane Palmer, and also somebody donated us a Swedish kroner of 20 Swedish kroner. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it really means a lot. So support us to continue, and thank you. Bye.